Oh, happy day. The lift has arrived. There it is. We unloaded it with the little John Deere. I had to do one side at a time. I didn't feel like firing up the big guy for that because I can't really get it in my building anyways. My big tractor's too tall. So the little guy here, the 1025R, is what I use to lift it. It's about 1,800 pounds, the fella said. The loader's only rated for 1,100. So I lifted up one side, dragged it a bit off the trailer, set that down, went back, hooked on the other side, lifted it up, and he drove the trailer out. We're done in a few minutes. No big deal. However, to get that into here, I got to take it in pieces, and it is pouring buckets outside right now. So I'm gonna. It's on an angle iron cradle. I'm gonna unbolt it. I already got the chains hooked up to it. I'm gonna hook on one piece at a time, which is well within the lift limits of my little tractor, and bring it in. Hopefully it doesn't have more than a few gallons of water in it the way it's coming down out there. So wet, my jeans weigh about 40 pounds right now, and they keep trying to come off me, so if I'm moving you, I apologize. And hey, look at all this free angle iron I got. It only cost me $6,000. Okay, posts are laid out there. You can see behind me roughly where they need to be. I got them all unpackaged. All the extra parts are up on the workbench back there. Now I get the fun of sifting through about 40 pages of manual to make sure I know what the hell I'm doing as far as assembly goes. Shouldn't be an issue. But I want to point out one thing. Listen closely. Not 5 minutes after I laid this thing out like it is now, it stopped raining. 4.5 hours I've been waiting, finally sucked it up, went out, got soaking wet, and now 5 minutes after I'm done, it stops. Always the way, isn't it? Anyways, I'm gonna start tinkering here and putting these posts together and moving them into where they need to be exactly. I already got marks on the floor, and we'll get this show on the road. Okay, before we go too crazy and people start going, oh my God, what you're doing is so unsafe, I just want to point one thing out. I'm 52. And I ain't exactly in shape anymore. So when I'm lifting these later and you go, that's so unsafe, damn it, you can kill it. All the weight's at the bottom. So it's fine. Little fine tuning here. There it is, first post is set. I put that plus on the ground before I moved it. Look at that. I think I knew what I was doing. All right, there's our big anchor bolts. As far as depth goes, I'm basically going to the full length of the bit, or a little less. That way I got a little bit of air pocket at the bottom. I got 7 inches of concrete here, fiber mesh reinforced, so that won't ever be an issue. Okay, so what I got done here, I got my primary power pole, whatever, primary is the one with the power unit on it, and in this case the single point braking mechanism. Okay, so that's your primary pole. I have the one single leg in there, not tight, so I can still tweak this if need be. Over there I've got a DeWalt laser level set up, and you can see the plus on the ground. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's there. That's 12 feet out from the wall, same as the other post is. And I'm shooting the laser right through my plus and right up the center of my lift. So I know I got, you can see the line there. Okay, so I know I got both posts squared off as well as they need to be. Right distance apart, everything's square. Okay, again, that post isn't tight, and this one here, the slave post, is actually the last thing you bolt in because you want to check obviously your leveling to make sure all your posts are actually level before you go and tighten anything down, because you may have to shim your posts. Hole number 2 is done. All right, got all 5 bolts drilled, all 5 legs in. Now I'm not torquing them yet, but I am going to tighten down a bit. Okay, there's no point checking your level until you've at least tightened these down hand tight, because once you pull them down, you'd be surprised how much you can change this. I'm really close to level. I'm between the lines, but I'm not quite where I want to be. I want to move the top of the post back, so I'm going to install shims on these 2 bolts here. I think I'm going to go with 2 on each of these, 1 on this one, and that should get me right about where I want to be. So loosening them all off again. Perfect.
He didn't show up, so I pinged him. I said, would you like to cancel or one-on-one? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Every time.
Every time.
Okay, so 2 shims got me right perfect where I needed to be. So I'll put my 2 on the other bolt and 1 on this one here, and that'll be perfect. Whew. I need a younger body to do this work. Oh. That's a lot of torque. Okay, I won't say that didn't wear me out, but it wore me out. 1 post, firmly in, you can hit it with a truck and it ain't going anywhere. All right, now to put the top piece on, which you can put on the ground. Okay, so I'm going with the lower setting. What I did was I put a strap on here, so now I can let it go. It's not going anywhere. Lower setting. Oh, it's time. Slide in 1 bolt. So this lift comes in an adjustable height, 12 foot 3 inches or 11 foot 8 inches. Obviously you can see I already have height restraints. I have to modify these here trusses. On the front, there's a carriage stop, which stops the carriage from going any further than this. And I've got 11 more bolts to put in. You have these in your shop over at school? What?
We had a bigger type, which was red.
It's bigger than this. Nothing is bigger than this. Nothing! Got me helper out there. Finally got out of bed. All right, top beam is put together. That is at the widest setting. So you can see there, it's telescopic. So if I was to slide that over and use the other bolt holes, then we would be at whatever, 6 inches less. Okay, we got our top put on here, nothing to that. Okay, so again, you can do it this way where you're assembling things up top. It's not really heavy. Or, as another option, where you assemble this one on the ground. So, it's the same thing, just not stood up yet. Okay, second post is up and right where it needs to be, within reason. Alright, so what I'm going to do at this time is install the top plate. Because I know this post is straight and level, I install the top plate, make sure all the bolts line up, and then I reposition this one. I can fine tune it, twist it, turn it, whatever, once that's all bolted in. No sense leveling it now, based on measurements, and then putting that up and finding I'm out a half an inch on my bolt holes. All right, top bar is now installed. Rollers are in. I can take down my safety straps that I had in place here. And then we can get the level on that other post. Jesus. Push hard, Mike, push hard!
Yep, done.
Okay, got the safety bar put in. This is a little U-shaped bracket here with a couple of screws and nuts. Piece of PVC pipe with which looks to be a simple mercury switch, nothing complicated. The other end is just a pin, so when the car comes up, hits that, flips the mercury switch, shuts the lift off. Okay, we're going to get into running the cables now. So you got, it looks like about 3/8 good sized cable. How it works, you got a carriage in here, one end's bolted in, goes under a pulley that's pre-installed in the bottom. I need to run it up, through a pulley on the top, across the top, through that pulley, back down, where I screw it back into this base. Okay, so because I'm going with the low setting, you can see how much extra cable I have from where that point is down. But on the inside, there's 3 spots that you go through. The gun shows are too big. I had to enlist somebody with pipe cleaners. Okay, so when it comes to the top and putting your cables in, you see here, there's no way to get that cable on top of that roller. Except that they give you a nice flat spot, which you later close off with a plate. It's still not easy to get in there, but it'll go like that. So again, later on we screw on a little plate here that closes this in, and then your cable can't come off of there anymore. Okay, got both cables in. The anchor side, because we're on the low setting, is way the heck down here. My son was able to get his arms in, I couldn't fit mine. And he was able to screw the 2 nuts on. Now they're not tight, they're just hand tight. Once we get this thing powered up, we can raise up just the arms, support them, and then go under and tighten them up and lock them into each other so they won't ever come undone. Okay, I'm just gonna head up there and put on those two little locks I mentioned. That's what they look like. Okay, starting the installation of the hydraulic hoses here. First thing you gotta screw on is this extension here. Okay, so here's the fitting coming off of the ram. You can see there's the little plug cap that they put in for shipping and storage. So, yeah, there's gonna be some fluid that comes out. It looks worse than it is. So we'll just clean that up with a little bit of Absorball later on. Enough to make it a messy job. Your standard hydraulic fitting hose with an elbow goes on there. This would be so much easier if my hands weren't covered in hydraulic oil. Well, I stole a roll of the wife's paper towel. She's gonna be mad. I'm gonna want these clean because if there's a big puddle of hydraulic oil here, how the heck do you ever know if it's leaking? So we got these little steel studs that we screwed into the pre-drilled holes. That is for the cover for the hydraulic line. Okay, power box is mounted here. This is all this elbow and everything is just loose. So I got a different type of fitting here. This one has a rubber O-ring on this elbow that goes into the power unit. Then I have a short line with an elbow. It's a standard hydraulic fitting on this side. And then we're going to screw this T on the other end because the fluid's coming out of here through this hose to the T down to this pillar and then up over the top and down to the other one. So everything's going in loose now because we're going to finagle it into the covers and all the proper placement here, and then we'll tighten it all up once it's in place. Okay, made a bunch of headway here. Got my hydraulic line all covered up here now. I ran the electric power supply and the limit shut-off bar inside here. I just made a little cut, filed it so there's no sharp edges, and now I got that all neat. I still got some cable ties to trim and whatnot. I'm going to put a strap on here to hold this. We're about ready to start filling up some hydraulic oil. It's wired into the breaker. I'm not going to get into the wiring. If you're not confident working with 220 single phase, then call an electrician. Ooh, we have juice. Okay, tank's all filled up. Got power. We have lift. Okay, the last thing to do is to bleed them. Okay, so there's your bleeder screw right on top here. And when you see fluid coming out that doesn't have bubbles in it, you're good. And it's going to drop a little bit while it's doing this. I got screw tabs for this one and the extensions. Why not? First lift. Going right now because the roof's not cut out yet. Somebody doesn't want to get out of Grandpa's old vet. Been in there for like 10 minutes.